Hi, this is Dave from Hawaiian South Shore. I'm here with Stu. Well, actually, I'm not here with Stu. He's in California, and I'm in Honolulu right now. Where are you at right now, Stu?
I live in Chula Vista, California, southeast San Diego.
Right on. So today we're going to be going over the new Firewire um Twinzer. Is that something you're known for, or give us a little story about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty well known for it. There are other guys that have built them for a long time. When I saw the original one from Will Jobson, uh, and I got to see Martin Potter ride that thing. He was riding a Blue Hawaii at the time. He was going faster than anybody else, and more radical turns. So by that time, I was already shaping my own boards for local guys down here in Imperial Beach. And Rusty, I was still getting boards from him because I always felt it was important to get good boards from well-known guys. So he made one. There was a PSAA contest down in IB, and he made himself a 710, kind of a squashy tail one, but I took it out and rode it, and I didn't want to give it back. So I made some more, and that's where it started. And I made them from like performance boards into longboards because I was by then competing on the PSAA tour in longboards. So I loved them. I still have the very first one I made. It's all brown and buckled. It's in my shop, and the logos are still neon. That was back in the neon paints for the laminates. But I loved them. They work great, and then I've always made them through the years. But other things come along. There's other developments in surfboards, and I'm kind of known for making just about anything. I shaped boards for Joel Tudor for a long time, and he's a single fin guy, and that's what I started surfing on. And we made a lot of boards through the years. But I always was I was a very good surfer, and I rode shortboards and longboards, and that was my deal. So I never stopped making Twinzers, but I really got them dialed in again when Scott Bass asked me to build him a board years ago. For we were just talking, we've been friends for a long time. He goes, make me one, for the boardroom show. So I made him that board, and he loved it. And that's where I really got them dialed in. And that's been like 12 years, maybe a little more. So the demand for them has gone through the roof. So I was approached through Taylor and Dan Mann at Firewire to see if they wanted me to join up with them. So Taylor and I did the Singleton longboard, which I'm pretty sure you're familiar with. And so we've been working on that for about 3.5 years, I think. And that board's been really successful. And then I slid them, the boys up at Firewire. I had a Twinzer in the back of my truck, and I said, "You guys go try this." And that's was the impetus for this board.
And before we get into that model, I wanted to kind of interview you about your history of surfing, how you got started, how you got into shaping, and then some, maybe a couple wild stories about your shaping history, and then break down the Twinzer and then this board here, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, yeah. When I was 13, I had the opportunity to shape my first surfboard. We had a mentor that would take us to the beach. I lived in South Orange County, and he was a club member at Salt Creek when it was private. So he would take us down to this beautiful beach, and we were just kids, but we went to Hannafin's surf shop up in Newport Beach, and for $17 you could buy resin and catalyst and pigments and cloth, and we did the whole thing. So single fin days, and we laid up a panel for fins, and hand shaped the whole board because we didn't have a planer or anything. I think we had like block planes and sandpaper, and they probably turned out like propellers, but we had a lot of fun.
$17. I can't believe that.
That was awesome. It was in 1970, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, a
So
couple of
then,
years.
yeah. So then that just got the bug and started shaping and got really into it.
Yeah, well, I did boards for myself and my friends, and I always rode good surfboards. I'll tell you that. So locally in San Clemente was just down the road from where I lived, and those are the areas that we surfed. The beach breaks of San Clemente, and a little while later, I got a job at a surf shop called Natural Design, and that's where Midget Smith got his start. And Midget was a local legend, and after that, another good friend, two good friends of mine, Terry Sennett and Max McDonald, started doing my boards. Mostly Max, because Terry and I lived together. We kind of played around in our little garage, little one-car garage, glassing boards that Jeff Mack shaped for us. Jeff was kind of a disciple, as Terry was, of Ben Ipa. So we knocked that around, and the lucky thing for me was I always could tell what a good surfboard looked like, and I was good with my hands, so I could kind of check them out, and that's where it all started for me. So we had the IPS Pro Tour, which really wasn't a Pro Tour here. So I was honest about my own abilities, and I could learn, and I watched everybody, all the good guys shape my boards. And again, like Max and Dean Cleary and Midget. And it went on from there. And that's kind of where I got my start. So I did the usual stuff, worked in a restaurant and surfed my brains out. And then Rusty Preisendorfer, we'd been friends for quite a while, and he was always begging me to get boards from him, which I was kind of stubborn. I'm like, well, I rode so-and-so's board, but it wasn't exactly what I want. So he made me a few boards, got me a job at Canyon Surfboards, sanding and polishing, and he actually said, "Hey, you want to make a board?" So I did, and that's kind of where it all started again.
Oh, right on. For the people that don't know much about Twinzers, what's the difference between a twin fin board and a Twinzer?
Simple explanation is the Twinzer is a system, and again, I give Will Jobson all the credit, and I just took what I liked and I refined it. Fin placement is everything, but so is the surfboard itself. The bottom contours and rockers and foils, and I was able to really perfect it. And it's a board that it's interesting because a lot of guys build boards. They'll say, well, who's going to ride this board? Is it going to be for a beginner or an intermediate or very advanced surfer? And you can truly say with this TWE, the Twinzer Egg from Firewire, any ability can ride that board. You put a new beginner surfer, or you put Taylor Jensen on it, who you've seen pictures of, that throws it vertical. So really popular board, and the Helium construction, I think, is also a big bonus. So yeah, it's exciting. But the fins themselves, to get back to your original question, you've got the front fins, which is considered a canard fin, and you have the rear fin, the main fin. And my analogy for it is, if you think about a sailboat, a typical sailboat has a jib and a mainsail, and the jib's performance job is to put wind onto the mainsail, which creates a couple things. It creates a drive, and it also enables you to maneuver faster. So if you take that and you put it in hydrodynamic form, on a surfboard, the front fin, the canard fin, cleans up the water flow onto the foiled side of the main fin. And with the twin fin, you don't get that. All you get is the water rushing down the plan shape of the board and hitting the twin fins. And if there's any little thing, fin placement, can't, toe in is not right, you'll see guys riding boards that are like sticky and choppy. And you don't get that with a Twinzer. It just has a nice even water flow. So that's in a nutshell where we're at. We really have it dialed in, and working with guys like Taylor Jensen and others. Even one of my big wave guys is riding a couple of his Maverick boards as Twinzers. Colin Black.
Really?
Yeah. They don't have a limit. They really don't.
Wow. So, on a typical twin, a lot of times, I think when you surf it, you're not really supposed to, especially on a bully wave, you don't want to go, all the way down, drive off the bottom because it tends to slide or bog at the bottom. You need to stay more top half of the wave on a regular twin. On a twinser, or the way you have this shaped, is there like can you surf it more top to bottom?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can ride them in stand-up barrel conditions. You can ride them in mushy, junky, high tide surf. They don't really have any limits. And I tell people, if you want to go straight, you can, but you don't have to. You can, especially with the range of boards we have from the 6.8, I think, to the 7.4, dictating on, whatever the wave dictates, you can do.
Is there like a V that comes all the way through the tail to hold it off the bottom or
The
something?
What I do on the bottoms is there's a from the nose back, there's a slight bevel. It's a blended bevel that runs about it shuts down just before the center or white point, and then it goes into a V panel through the tail with a double barrel concave. So that nice clean entry rail always keeps it from sticking. You can ride it in bumpy, like we get a lot of bumpy junk surf here in San Diego, getting into the springtime, and it never sticks. But you can also ride it in really hollow waves too.
Wow. So, since it's a twinser, and there's only, well, there's four fins, but it's just fins on the rail. Does it make the board feel shorter? Like, since if it's a 6.8, when you're turning it doesn't really feel like a big board. It whips around like a smaller board.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I like my boards to maneuver well, and I probably put in more tail rocker from center back than most people. So they never get sticky or catch any edges or anything. So I've always been that way with my boards. Always like you're turning off of the rocker first. If you think about it like that, as a surfer, the first contact point, of course, is the bottom. But when you lay your board on a rail, if everything's put in where it belongs and it's right, it's going to roll through that turn very effortlessly, and everything works together. There isn't anything that's a hang up. Twin fins are also known, as you're probably aware, as being really quirky on your backhand. It's tough to get your foot in the right place, and some of them work and a lot of them don't. I look at videos of people riding them and I can see the board hanging up. Whereas the Twinzer, it just doesn't. The water flows clean. There's a picture posted to Taylor last week, just full 12 o'clock vertical turn. He was riding the 7.0 that day. So it's just a really fun board to ride.
So is it better to surf this board like really rail to rail, or you can just surf it flat too on a small day?
You can surf it flat and cruise. You can, just trim on it. Um,
Wow.
my boards have lower nose rockers than a lot. Still enough, just to where you're not with more tail rocker. You don't have to have extreme nose rocker. I've never been a fan of that. And that's what I would consider the business end of the board is, your front foot is towards the wide point or the center of the board, and your back foot is generally over the set of Twinzer fins. So
Wow.
again, really, really smooth transitions, and it works in a really wide variety of surf.
So the fin placement compared to like a twin, is it a lot further up, or is it like generally in the same area where it's clustered on the four fins?
It's generally further back than most people put their fins, and shapers have always been known to put fins wherever they want them, or they think they should be. When Mark Richards came out with his twin fin, he originally started with Dick Brewer. That's who made his first ones, and then Mark started shaping his own. And there were guys, Peter Troff was a main one, who idolized MR, as many people did, and he built a great twin fin back then. And I got boards from him for a while that worked fantastic. You could ride them in as big a waves as you could paddle into. I surfed blacks a lot, and I had some great boards. Tom Everly was another one. You know, Tom was doing lightning bolts for a long time, and he made me some of the best boards I ever had. And they were twin fins, and they worked in big waves. So
Hmm.
as you get, you know, and the other thing I've done with my work through the years is um, I was never afraid of taking things out to an extreme and then being honest about it and then bringing it back to where it should be. And if you're honest with yourself as a shaper, you'll learn just as much more that way than you will any other way.
Wow. So for the firewire boards that we're getting, there's only one set of fins.
Yes.
Usually, there's like small, medium, and larges.
Well,
Somebody that's,
what we'll do, there is a secondary set of fins, a smaller size for guys like 140 pounds and smaller as the boards get shorter. But again, you don't, there's another way to think about it. If you're not really feeling your fins, everything's right. If you're feeling your fins, you know, maybe they're not in the right place. They should never drag. And that's what you find with the Twinzers. You just never get it. Um, and there's nothing wrong with quads and tri-fins and all that. This is just, I don't like dragging a center fin through the water if I don't have to. And that's the first thing you notice is everything flows together and there's no hangups.
wow, that's interesting. I've never heard anybody say something like that about fins.
They are the motor of the surfboard. If
Yeah.
you think of it like that, you know, or you could think of it as like a radial tire. You know, you're getting more grip, but it's controllable. So yeah, they
Wow.
never do quirky stuff. They never skip or bounce because of that water contact that's created with the canard fins, with the front fins.
This is like perfect for Hawaii because every time we have a swell, like 95% of the time, it's bumpy and yeah, we don't get like perfect conditions.
Yeah,
It's really rare. Yeah.
but you could ride like you could ride one at Queens. You know, you could ride it at Threes, any of the other breaks, and it's going to fit good. You could ride it at Alamo Bowls on a good day, and you're going to love it.
Wow. So even a wave that's like punchy and just like thrown, you can get
Oh
into
yeah,
there, huh?
yep, no problem.
Wow. I'm kind of excited.
Kind of a Swiss Army knife. You know, you could literally take whatever size you wanted that was your go-to comfort board, and you could ride it all over the place. You could, you know, ride it on the North Shore. You could ride it at height, but you probably shouldn't. But Laniakea and Chun's and smaller Sunset, double overhead or so, completely comfortable.
Wow. So is the rail pretty knifey on this board?
It's not knifey or pinched. It's very foiled, is the way I would describe it. Fits good in your hand, you know.
Uh-huh.
But a couple reasons for that. The sensitivity is really important. But if and I'm sure you ever ridden like a really boxy rail board and you get caught inside and you want to duck dive that thing and it's just a cork. Um, that lower rail profile allows you to dip a rail and get deeper in the water when you duck dive through a wave. So another thing that I really thought about. Foils are super important in my rails, and like I said, they're never pinched, they never stick. But
Oh.
a nice tight edge through the tail, through the business end, the fins and the double concaves to give you bite and release.
And then the board is like a round tail or like a little kind of
Yeah, it's a
penny
rounded
or
pin, clean rounded pin, and I make them in all kinds of a lot. Like I said, probably 80% of what I make is Twinzers. I make them as swallowtails. Performance boards. I even make them as like a hip squash with 4 channels in them. And
oh
I do
wow.
boards with channels, but with this series, we just wanted to have something nice and clean. I think that throughout, wherever people are in the world, it's going to work really well with their local breaks.
All right,
So
on.
can
Hey, thank you very much for making this work.
Ah, you're welcome, David. Nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too.
Okay,
All right.
take care.
Bye.